Alright guys, so today we're going to be making a little organizer for our drill and drill batteries and a charging station, and it's going to be a pretty relatively small one. I want it to fit about 3 drills on the bottom and then have 2 more shelves above that for maybe some batteries or some drill bits, and then a place for the charger. And so what I'm going to do is I've marked it. I've gotten it as square as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect for me, but I've marked off at the end of this 4x8 sheet here 12 inches. And we're going to cut with the circular saw. We're going to cut this, and then I have a compound miter saw that I'm going to use, which will cut up to 12 inches. And so I know that I want these shelves. I need 3 of them, 1 to hold the drills and 2 above that. And I know that I'm going to make them 12 inches wide and 9 inches deep. So once I cut this, I'll be able to cut the shelves out with my miter saw, which will be a lot better than a circular saw, because it's just going to give me a lot better, a lot more accurate cuts. And I'll be able to put a stop block up and they'll all be the same. And I'll probably go through and shave like a 1/4 inch off the end of them to make sure that my cuts are all square, because when I cut this with a circular saw, it's probably not going to be perfect. So we'll see. But first thing first, cut this out, and then we're going to take it over to the circular saw and cut out our 9 inch by 12 inch shelves. Well, coincidentally, after I've laid this out, 12 by 9 is going to be perfect for the sides as well. So we're just going to repeat the process 2 more times. And so out of this 1 strip that I cut off, we're going to get, all 3 shelves and both sides, and then we're just going to cut another piece for the back. So we'll see. I don't know if you can tell, but I squared these all up. They're just a little bit shy of 12 inches now, because I just took enough off to make sure that they were squared up. And the only thing you want to think about when you're doing that is to make sure that if you have a factory edge, which I did, the end of this board, you want to cut opposite of that. So you want to use your factory edge that's is straight against your fences, and then you want to cut the other end. So next we're going to go ahead and repeat what I just did 2 more times, and then we're going to get this bottom shelf ready for the drills, and we got to figure out how big our back needs to be, do some measurements there, and then cut that piece out. so here we go. I went ahead and cut that piece. It was 13 and a quarter by 12 inches, and I cut it a little bit long just to make sure. Not on the 13 and a quarter, I cut 13 and a quarter, but on the 12 inches I cut it just a little bit long, so if need be I can sand it or just leave it like that, kind of like an effect on the back being raised up. But there you go, there's the mock-up, the idea here, and we'll see how close we get to having everything nice and square, but it seems like it's pretty decent. It's in the range that's close enough that we're going to be able to sand it, and that's the important thing. So our next thing before we start pre-drilling everything and sanding it down is we're going to make our slots in here for our, on the bottom for our drill, and we're probably going to go ahead and do just the front, we're probably just going to go ahead and do this one first, as far as putting it all together. That way we can tell, we can just go ahead and put the drill in there and get our, where we want our next shelf to go. So my plan for this is a little different than most of the ones that I've seen on the internet. Most people, they just come off of this last shelf here, and they come down with a T, and then they just rest it in there. But what I'm going to do is take this and take a hole saw and just drill out a hole like this, 3 of them, and then take my jigsaw and cut down either side of that hole, and that'll give us a nice opening to put our drills in, and we should be able to leave plenty of stock on the end of it so it's got good support. And yeah, so we're going to give that a go, mark it up and drill it, and then we'll start screwing and gluing. Alright, so last thing we're going to do here is, well, that won't be the last thing, but the next thing we're going to do is pre-drill everything, and we're going to use some 2-inch screws, and we're going to use some liquid nail, which is going to be even stronger than the screws, and we're going to start assembly. So there we go. So now what we have left is I'm gonna drill a hole right here that's big enough to put a plug through, so I can plug in my charging station, so I can run the charging station power cord out here and just have my little charger here, sitting on top. And then we gotta wipe off all the excess glue. We're gonna sand it down, sand all the rough edges up a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's more functional than artistic. And yeah, and then our drill fits in there nicely, and we got room to play with if we get bigger, something in there that's bigger, like an impact. And put some stuff, you can put some stuff here like your spare batteries, or maybe some screws or drill bits. So wasn't too bad. I use 3/4 inch plywood for everything. I ended up using just 1 1/4 inch number 6 screws that I had, and I've got to put some more screws in it. I've got to pre-drill some more screw holes, but basically all I did was I put enough screws in it to hold the glue. I just put 1 or 2 screws in each piece of board, so I'll go back through and put a couple more in there, but that glue will be more than enough to hold this thing together. And yeah, so let's get the sanding this thing down and clean it up after we get that hole drilled, and then I'll mount it up, see what it looks like. Alrighty, there we go, finished project. I haven't mounted it. I didn't mount it to anything, but you would just hang it up on the wall. And I think it turned out pretty good. I just sanded down these edges a little bit. You could bevel them. A lot of people bevel them on the edge, and you could take a router and route the edges of it, but it's really just an organizer. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I really like the way it turned out. So I think that's going to be about it for this video. Thanks for watching.